The New South Wales government has announced a new subsidy to make household batteries more accessible and affordable. From November 1, homes and businesses with pre-existing solar panels will be able to save up to $2,400 on the upfront installation costs of a household battery. Those who do not yet have solar installed will have the incentive considered in the installation quote if solar panels and batteries are purchased together. A further incentive of up to $400 is available to those who connect to a virtual power plant. The initiative is part of the state's The Peak Demand Reduction Scheme and aims to ease the burden on power supply chains during the nation's transition from coal-powered energy to renewables.
It's a really important thing and the transition is underway, but what the New South Wales government is doing is just being very sensible in the way that we manage that. We're not pretending that everything is perfect. We're making sure that we're managing the challenges ahead.
Let's get a discussion on this and bring in Rewiring Australia Executive Director Dan Cass. Hi there, Dan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So let me ask you, what will these incentives do?
So the incentives mean it's easier for households to afford to buy a battery, and if you have solar energy and you also get a battery, then you can participate in the energy market competing against your energy supplier, and your input cost, the energy that you generate on the roof of your solar panels, is the world's cheapest delivered energy. So Australians are big fans of solar, but they may not realise quite what an economic miracle Australian rooftop solar is, the world's cheapest delivered source of energy. So if you have the batteries, then you are ready to go and you can slash your bills and your emissions. So Rewiring Australia thinks this is a really excellent policy, and we hope other states and the federal government back in the direction led by New South Wales with this.
So two questions. One, will other states follow suit? And two, do you have data and statistics on how much people can save and the emissions they will cut?
Right, so we haven't analysed this announcement, but Rewiring Australia has been publishing research for over 2 years now that shows that by about 2030, the average Australian household that goes full on solar and a battery and electrification and an EV in the garage rather than a petrol or diesel car could be saving in the realm of $5,000 a year. So just to put that into context, some of the bill relief that state and federal governments send to us when bills are high in recent years amounts to a few $100s. So the new federal subsidy, a federal grant is about $300 per household. If we help households get off dirty fossil fuels and into solar and electrification, we could be helping them with up to thousands of dollars a year if we include the EV, and even without the EV, just getting off gas and using less grid power, the savings are in the realm of $1,000 a year per household. So it's big money for struggling.
Dan, right now, what are the reservations that normal people would have about installing solar?
So solar's wildly popular. I mean, we're the biggest solar nation in the world in absolute terms. We've had a love affair with it, I think, for a long time, partly because it's a big country and it's sunny and it sort of makes sense. I'd like to think, because I studied science, it's also because we're proud of the technologists, particularly at University of New South Wales, who really invented a lot of the technology that's in silicon solar cells all around the world. But also it just then became a matter here of, I think, a bit of pride and a bit of social proof that people in the suburbs like the idea of having a bit of control over their bills. So we've got well over 3.5 million households that now have their own, power station on the roof. So the challenge is to get all of those.
What's that percentage-wise?
It's about 1 in 3 households now. So it's up to 40% in some postcodes. I mean, it's quite remarkable. But the challenge is the batteries. The batteries are still a bit out of reach of most people. So a solar system might have a payback of a few years, 3 or 4 years. You might earn back in savings what you invest in solar. Batteries, it's a little longer. It's more like about a decade, depending on how much power you use and so on. So this little nudge towards those battery investments, that means that a $10,000 or $15,000 battery system is more affordable, could make quite a difference. So we'll be watching this trend in New South Wales with great interest.
And are other states expected to follow suit? Have you been speaking to politicians in other states?
Yeah, so other states are supporting batteries. What's interesting is that this announcement in New South Wales is part of a thing called the Peak Demand Reduction Scheme. So a lot of the subsidies for solar and batteries have been primarily about climate change, so reducing emissions. This New South Wales scheme is really a reliability program, and this is really critical. I mean, we would have seen the announcement yesterday of the postponement of closure of the Rewiring power station. Right, and these two announcements really, they go hand in hand. At Rewiring Australia, we fully endorse the retirement of coal, and it's not something you could stop anyway. The market is doing it. You can't bank on a coal-fired power station in this country. It's not possible. So that's happening. Coal's going. The question is what will fill the gap? And from Mr. Dutton, we've heard this idea of nuclear, which probably lacks a little credibility at this stage. So it's going to have to be green.
Solar's much cheaper.
Well, it's much cheaper, and
Thanks
it's very
so much for your insights. Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Dan Cass from Rewiring Australia.